Hello. Welcome to Outlaw Redemption the Podcast, a Western folk rock opera. I'm your host, Bill Wardlow. With me, the one and only RPG, Ronald Allen Cordy. What's up?
Thank God there's only one, right? It's a handful.
How much could the world possibly handle?
Yeah, exactly. So, we're back to, we're on to chapter 5.
Right, and we just got done with Whiskey and Laudanum, where his mother had drank and drugged herself into death, basically. Yeah. So
due to shame, because of being involved in prostitution to try to survive, doing what she had to do to survive and trying to cope with all that. And hey, I just wanted to throw something I didn't talk about. If you notice too, in our last chapter, that we had a reoccurrence of some different birds. We had the crows, and I have to bring that up because when we were editing all this stuff, I was playing that out in my car a lot with the windows open. And I swear I called in a whole bunch of blackbirds that have sat around my house since we've done this album. It's like their new home. I think our CD called them in, so that's pretty fun.
That is awesome.
Yeah. Craziness. But chapter 5, I wanted to... so just as we thought this story seemed to have come to a conclusion in its own way, but it doesn't, because there's still one member of the Hardman family still alive. And it's young Hezekiah. And we mentioned that before, and again, how he ended up working in the barn and staying there when his mother was doing her entertaining at their place, and he had to stay outside. Rather than be in the rain, the old fellow that ran the livery would have him come in there and keep him warm, when he started, And then his mother passes, he's an 8 or 9-year-old kid in a frontier town, orphaned, And in the town's estimation, his daddy was a criminal outlaw and his mother was a whore,
Right.
And he was just a son of a whore and not worth much. But the old man took him in and he made himself handy, and he learned a lot. And because whatever anyone label they put on him, the fact was he was from a family that was able at one time to really get a lot of things done and be productive and make good decisions and stuff. And, because deep down there was a good, sincere person that was in all of those in the family. And I think that's true with so many people that go the other way. There's somebody good inside there. Just can't find them.
Yeah.
They've lost them for a while.
You come to a road sometimes, and
you take the wrong one.
Yep.
And then and people don't understand. You think, well, it's just easy, turn back. And in some ways it is that easy. It's that simple, I should say. But it's not that easy, because I always heard the adage about, you got to dig your way out of something. Man, if you're stuck in a hole and you start digging, you make the hole deeper.
That's right.
I mean, yes, you can make a plan and decide you're going to start digging and build a stairwell along the side, but that's a plan. And you're still coming out of the bottom. And sometimes but the fact is if you're in a hole and you just keep digging, you're getting further in. And that's what I found. In my life and my struggles that I had, I found myself always trying to find the fix to go to the next thing, to make it better, to make up ground. Gamblers to do that. They always try to make up for their losses. Right. And of course they end up further and further down. So, this is but here we got a kid, basically an innocent kid. He's just a victim of all of the things around him, his environment and all that. And now he's staying in the barn, and everybody discounts him. And that's kind of where we're at in this story. This is kind of the passage of time from him becoming about 8, 9 years old to becoming a young man. And the fact is that, even when as time passed, people... Even though they still hold their grudges, they acknowledge people are handy, that they do these things. And it's tough for him growing up in this town a little bit, because he's got another kid about his age who is the town baron that his father worked for, has a son. His name's Rex. And they they're jealous of each other. That one thinks one calls one spoiled and entitled, picking on, and a bully, picking on the most vulnerable kid in town,
Right.
But this kid's likable, and he's a good kid, and he works hard, and has a sense about him. As a point that talks about he's going to learn everything he can to run that farm, because he has aspirations, he has dreams,
Right.
To the town, especially Rex. He's just a worthless old horse son that's going to end up dead or hung or something, shot. But to him, he's aspirations of having a family. Because that's where we're talking about. I said we started off this thing on a farm and a person having a dream, a family, a way to take care of them,
Right.
Stable environment.
Living a life.
Yeah, and this kid still remembers that dream that's down inside, the one that they started in. And so he's working hard, and then, the years pass, and that old fellow that ran the barn started getting more sick, and Hezzy starts picking up more and more of the work and taking care of the old fella. And then, at the end of the days, Hezzy's running the barn, and eventually the old fella passes away. And that's just another one of the things about how, one of Rex's things, giving him a hard time because of, that he lives with an old man that got adopted by the guy that runs the barn and all that. And then when no sympathy when the man died and all that. But the funny thing is his dad owned the barn. Rex's dad did. So, but for the Baron, he was useful. So he kept him on there,
Right.
Kept running the barn because, in those days, a town livery was very important. And so that's where we got. But there does. So also we hear the first mention of another reason that Hezzy was able to kind of keep himself and see some hope, because the one last thing his father says to him is that he said, "Son, listen to that preacher man." As we know, that preacher had a profound effect on his father. And he told him, "You got to listen to that preacher man, son." And so the one thing that Hezzy did is he went to church every week to go listen to that preacher man. But, of course, this preacher man had a nice daughter about the same age, pretty little girl, and that made it a whole lot easier to make sure you showed up every Sunday and every Wednesday and that's where the rivalry kind of also began with Rex and Hezekiah, is because,
and we'll get to that.
Yeah, this is part of it.
Next episode.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, that kind of
next couple episodes
flowers in the next couple episodes.
But that's where it started. He says, like you said, when him holding in the song, he says, "Son, you got to listen to that preacher man. That's the last thing my daddy said to me. But when I'm holding his daughter's hand, I'll know the Lord has heard my pleas."
Yeah.
So as a little kid, that was his dream. This little girl he's in church with, that they would hold hands one day, that he would have this farm. I mean, this is the fuel that drove him, and the good words of the preacher that he heard every Sunday to try to make him try to rise up above the past, the cards that he had been dealt, to try to become who, and follow his dreams, even though he started in a rough place.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where we're at. This is where this is at, growing up and holding out that hope. It won't be long. That's the name of our scene in this that's coming up. It won't be long. And it don't matter, His attitude was really good. As long as the sun comes up, you got a chance. You're still in the game,
Yeah.
And it don't matter what's going on, because the sun came up today. And I know it ain't going to be long till things are going my way.
It's a good attitude.
Yeah. Well, it sure beats staring into the abyss and wondering how far down you can jump into it.
Absolutely.
So.
Absolutely. So who'd we have on the chapter on this one?
So the good thing on the chapter, it was what a nice little combination. We had myself, of course, on classical guitar, and then we had Sarah bringing in some violin, and then we laid Shelley playing her flute over top of all that. And man, it's just a nice. I just love the way that feels when it comes together.
It is.
There's just a lot of special work that we don't. I mean, the songs are great in their own right, but these things are, like I said, recorded in mono, run through a speaker emulator that made it sound like it came out of a Victrola. And we used all period instruments that would have been valid back in the 1906 when the story's being told.
Yeah.
The narrator's telling this story. So I just think that it's... I think there's
Gives it
some
a
really
very
cool,
eerie feeling.
It does. It feels very old. It
Yeah.
does feel like it's black and white. That's, as if it was visual, it would be a black and white mono, old stuff, and which is also one of the things that I liked is and I mentioned it before, probably mention it again, but I love the way it contrasted to go to the stereo full blast.
Yeah.
The Wizard of Oz becomes color, but except it's
a lot higher fidelity.
yeah, it is the sonic version of color picture.
Right.
And that's that was the goal that we took on this. Like I said before, that was an intentional.
Yeah, I remember you saying that specifically. Yeah, I want Dorothy walking out of the house into Oz.
Yeah, because that was so profound on me when I was a kid that this
Right.
it visually. And I just thought it would be kind of cool to try to achieve
it still does that to me when I watch it today. It's
Exactly.
still
It
just kind of
change,
takes your
does it?
breath every time.
I love that.
It's pretty awesome.
I do love that. But
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of that, especially when you really got this played got it on a nice system and played really loud and
Yeah.
clear. That's almost an addiction for me to hear really well played music loud and through good speaker system.
So we have Mason on the song.
Yes, Mason. He's and I want to make sure I put Mason did a bang up job
Absolutely.
on all of these things, and he played percussion on everything except on every not chapter, but scene song, the high fidelity stuff. He
Right.
played percussion on everything, as well as I think you did too, Bill.
Yeah. I played a lot of the shakers and tambourines,
ancillary
and
stuff. Yeah.
maracas and things like that.
And real good. I like the stuff we're doing now. We got some stuff that's going full kit, and we're doing some hand drums. But I like hand drums. I like hand percussion.
I do too. It gives everything a much more of a flow.
Yeah, and I like the contrast because I like
Or a push and pull.
Yeah, it's the song. The song that kind of dictates it to me, and I like. But I do like. There's a song that the Rolling Stones have that I listened to one time, not one time, 1,000,000 times, but No Expectations.
Yeah.
I'm pretty certain the only percussion is a wood block hitting on the third beat.
It's a good possibility.
But here's the thing, man. It is so much part of that song that I can't get it out of my head. You know what I mean? It's like, not even
Sometimes
out of
it's
my
the
ear.
simplest things.
It is so simple, but it is so profound.
Yeah.
And of course, we can get into the cowbell stuff because those. It's funny how everyone hates them, but there are certain songs that are just freaking classic with that cowbell, and you can't unhear. Without it, they are less.
Absolutely.
And it's like, but this particular, there is none of the other stuff, and that one thing there's just so percussion is the hand percussion gives you such an ability to have nuance.
Yeah,
nuance.
and I really got to give it to Mason. He come in and laid all these drums to scratch tracks.
Yeah, not very good ones, guys. I'm going to admit, I had my.
We've both learned a lot since the
learned a
beginning
lot.
of this thing.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like the
And,
last bunch we did 31 scratch tracks over 2 days,
Right.
and just pounded them out, and it was fine. And they're all pretty good. They were on time, and
they're all
click.
much better than we started with Outlaw Redemption sometimes.
I think a lot of it was nerves.
Yeah.
Funny, I can play in front of 1,000
Nerves
people.
and just a lack of playing to a
thing-
metronome.
That metronome is relentless.
It is.
It is unyielding. It is unkind.
It absolutely is.
It cuts no slack, no makeups.
No, and
But-
it's not going to try to play along with you.
When you quit fighting it and you practice with it, you become friends with it, and then all of a sudden it changes things.
It does.
I've always found it to be I find it to be amazing how you can play more notes and sound like you're going faster, and then play less notes and sound like you're going slower, but in truth you're exactly the same beat. And that's pretty amazing because you don't realize that. Now there are definitely times there are varying rates going on some songs and things, and but there are a lot of times that doesn't. We were discussing that about another thing today, how sometimes they even change some songs even change time signatures within the song and change back. So those things really do happen. But playing to straight rock and roll or straight whatever it is, could be a waltz, but 1, 2,
straight
3,
contemporary
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
Western music is typically 4/4 and 2/4.
Yeah. So that's it's nice when that becomes your friend.
Yeah.
I do much better when the click sounds more like a kick and a snare. So we've modified that to help me. That was one of the things. So if anybody's struggling, I suggest you maybe try that, because there are a lot of things that'll let you put a click or a metronome to a lot of different sounds. I found that to be more comforting to me and help me stay on better. But that may or may not help you. But if you struggle with it, don't give up. I got an app on my phone. I practice at home. I would play it while I was practicing. And finally, through attrition, basically, through effort and practice.
Through sheer willpower and choking the life out of that thing.
Oh, my goodness. I remember we having that one time we were just about to the end of a sequence, and the click, and I had stayed on this click, and all of a sudden I knew I had about 25 seconds of song to go. And all of a sudden that click.
I don't even think it was 25 seconds.
It felt like a year. But I knew he was at the end, and I'm going along fine, and all of a sudden that click turned into all those clocks at the beginning of time on Pink Floyd. I had them all going off on my head, waiting for the alarm to go and knowing that I was going to. And we were doing a live recording, so there was no editing it.
Right.
Yeah, it was the last song that we did. But I mean, oh my God. And Bill looked over at me, luckily, and saw that I was going. I mean, I was physically distraught.
He was.
You could see it. And Bill
you
hit
could see
the
the
click.
sheer panic in his face.
Bill hit the mute button on the click, and immediately the sea went right back to a sea of glass. And I skated out that last 47 days. No, it truly was. It's probably 15 seconds, but it seemed like an eternity, man.
Yeah,
that was. But I was waiting for all of the alarms to go off on Pink Floyd's time because that's what exactly that click turned to. So if you struggle with those things, if you're ever recording, just keep pushing, keep working, practice. Yeah. As Bill says, do your homework.
It's playing with a metronome is just straight practicing until you get good at it.
Yeah. I think you make friends with it. It's something
that's a little more difficult than most things in music.
Practice it till you make friends with it.
Yeah.
It becomes a comfort, because it's just like playing with a drummer, man. If you got a drummer that you lock in with, man, you guys are great.
Yeah.
Most good drummers, if that drummer's really great, he's on a metronome. Even if he ain't got one, he's got one. He's built in metronome. They can keep time.
But great drummers also can keep your time.
Yeah, exactly.
When need be. Kendall and Tucker on bass and guitar again.
And Jake with the lap steel.
And Jake with the lap steel.
Those three made a nice little combo on everything.
It really rounded out the sound on just about everything.
So that technique about panning left and right was really cool, because so there's this thing that goes on like in most of these things, that where we have both of those guys. We got one on the right side, one on the left side. So none of them, they sound very much more complementary and the like, in my opinion. That's and allows us to record straight down the middle. And Joe on his clarinet, what a good addition that really was too.
Yeah, it's such a nice round sound for a lead instrument.
Yeah, just a different little flavor. It's not sax. It doesn't have the same lower side of that. Although it has a low.
It's
I
not
find it
quite
has
as sharp
two
as a. It's not as sharp as a sax.
Yeah.
With the brass, it's a
Yeah.
nice wooden instrument
True. Maybe
that
that's why
gives
it's a
off
little
nice
mellowness.
mellow kind of sound.
There are two distinctive octaves in the thing, though. I mean, that's what's really cool because the lower octave stuff is a lot of
Yeah.
but there's a punch on the higher octave. There is
when
a punch.
he lights into it,
But
you feel
again,
him dig in.
It's punchy,
Yeah.
but yet mellow.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like a heavy, dull, I don't know what, but it's just nice. It's just so much, like you said, probably the difference between wood and brass.
Yeah.
And I liked that a whole lot. I thought it was another thing. It was just a great thing again. Joe, who I play music with quite often now, all the time now. And, but yeah, collaboration, I met him 5 days before he played on this.
Yeah. And then he come in and did all of his parts in one day.
Yeah.
I don't even think it was only like a half a day.
Yeah. It was a half a day.
Yeah.
Did all those parts, all his clarinet and all his sax parts.
He showed up, had done homework, and had parts written already, ready to go. And then we asked him to do a bunch of stuff that he wasn't prepared for, and he just jumped right in and did it. And,
we thought that I had sent him clicks for the. I had sent him clicks on the full band songs, so he could write parts, and told him what kind of parts we want him to write. Basically, work on, get a lead lick down, find a nice, basically an acoustic or a background lines. So he had both those done, but then, especially when we heard the clarinet, we knew we could use it on a couple of our narrations.
Yeah,
because it's an old instrument. Clarinet's an old instrument, so we ended up. That's where he ad-libbed some things where we had that come in to just to solidify some of the other stuff and stay within the theme. It was another instrument we could add and stay within our theme on the chapters of using period available pieces or instruments.
Right.
And so, yeah, it was real. I thought he did a great job, and to this day, like I said, I get to work with him. Play. We do a few festivals and things, and we're trying to increase some of that stuff. Joe's a real good workhorse when it comes to doing his homework. Not that everybody else isn't. I'm just saying that just for that short period of time that he prepared and came in, I was real impressed.
Yeah, did a fabulous job.
And I'm more impressed that to this day we're still, we continue to be friends and continue to play music together because it's kind of a bond I think that happens when you do a project like this. Or is with me, I will always, there'll be a day when I can't play and I'll be listening to this and I'll be rooting and cheering each one of these different parts off because I was there when they were wrote. And played and I can pick them all out, which is another, I will say is a byproduct. Music changes in the way we hear things, how we listen to music.
Yes.
I definitely have this divider that I've developed where I can pull a certain instrument out and listen to its parts in amongst all of the other things going on simultaneously. I don't know that I had it as acutely as I do now,
Yeah, it's something that you acquire over some time of really listening.
Yeah, it's a blessing, but it's also a bit of a curse.
It's very much a curse.
It is. It's like, I just like to enjoy this. Why can't I not stop listening to that snare hit?
Right.
Or that cymbal ring, or this particular single note that happens.
Why did they leave that there?
Yeah, it's like, why are you looking for needles in a haystack? Yeah. But it is very useful in building something great. But I'd like to be able to shut it off and on at will.
Yeah,
I'm working on that. I'm working on that. Passively listening. But as soon as I start actively listening, unless I go to lyrics, man, I get all sucked down one of those rabbit holes. The guitar, the bass, how they played the drums. It could be.
And then you get to the end and realize you didn't listen to the song at all.
Yeah, I missed it. I missed it.
Okay, so here's chapter 5.
It won't be long. RPG and the Kentucky Tumbleweeds. world can be such a cold and hard place. An orphan in a western town with no place to go but the town livery. The barn that was owned by the same guy that hired his daddy and owned the bars that his mama worked in, the town baron. But the old fellow that run the barn used to let him sleep there when his mama was entertaining. But Hezekiah stayed there in the tack room, doing chores and errands to pay his way. And he learned everything he could, and even eventually took care of the old fella when he finally gave out. As a last request to his father, Hezi went every Sunday and Wednesday to listen to that preacher man. It didn't hurt that he was sweet on the preacher's daughter. The way she was always good to him, it was evident to all that it was a mutual admiration. So the years rolled by, and our young Hezi grew tall and strong. And in spite of the losses and getting grief from Rex, the Baron's arrogant, jealous prick of a son, Hezi stayed hopeful and full of dreams. My